Alrighty, good morning. Good morning, guys. JMart, what's up, man? Happy Tuesday. How's everything going?
It's been good. Been good. Class started, so that kind of sucks. But outside of that, it's been chill.
I was gonna say we have to, in order to move forward, I guess we gotta go backwards here. And I know we've talked about it a little bit, but this Georgia game, it comes down to, the easy way out is to say it comes down to the sack before the first half, and then the kick return. That certainly played a major part. But overall, it just Georgia couldn't dominate up front. That's what I thought was going to happen. You tried to warn me that they were going to suck in the first half. I don't know if you thought that the beginning of the second half would turn out the way it did, but from your perspective, as we start to preview the Notre Dame Penn State game, go back and tell us exactly why Notre Dame won the game.
Yeah, Notre Dame's just a steady team. Like they felt like the more veteran team coming into that game. They felt like they held their heads a little better. Defensively, they're elite. Like I still stand by what I said. I think a month back now that they're probably the best defensive team in the country. Like it's not just a talent thing; it's just a system thing. They make it really hard to move the ball. They make it really claustrophobic for quarterbacks by really just getting to them really well. And yeah, Georgia with Gunnar Stockton, and never felt like they could get something going once Notre Dame recognized that they just wanted to make Stockton make the deep pass. And as soon as they realized they could blitz about 5 every play, it just felt like Georgia didn't have a chance.
Yeah, I thought Riley Mills, the big defensive lineman, like Notre Dame dominated up front without their best defensive lineman. So I overestimated how much that was going to cost them. Georgia couldn't really run the ball. ETN fumbled. Was very conservative play call on the first drive. And I guess Riley Leonard made enough plays. I didn't come away super impressed. Like as we transition to the Penn State game, how do you think Riley Leonard does against the Penn State defense? What do they do differently that Georgia did? Because I thought Georgia's defense was good enough to win the game. What was your thoughts on that?
I definitely think Georgia's defense was good enough. It still feels like they didn't prep enough for Riley Leonard's running ability. I mean, I don't know how many Georgia games I got to watch where a running quarterback feels like he can just kind of do whatever he wants on his legs. And I felt like that was basically Riley Leonard all game, besides that one tush push that just didn't go anywhere, or that one like pistol snap, fourth down attempt that was just really bad play calling ultimately.
Did you think at that point Georgia was going to win when they stopped them on 4th and 2?
Yeah, I mean, it felt like one of those situations where you just watched Notre Dame make a really stupid play call. Like it was, I don't know what they were trying to do. It was too cute. And it was like, okay, Georgia can come out and really prove something. And then they just fell flat again. And it was like, okay, if Georgia's not going to score points here, then there's not really much to talk about anymore.
Notre Dame, yeah, go ahead. Finish your point, though.
But yeah, I do think Penn State will be more prepared for Riley Leonard. I don't think you'll see that big skill, like that big gap in defending running quarterbacks. And again, you just got to make him throw the ball. Georgia wasn't able to make him throw enough. If Penn State can make him throw more, I think they're very vulnerable.
Penn State, they dominate up front against Boise State. They get the benefit of having the extra day. They haven't played, a game that they've had to win, it feels like, in a while, because the Big Ten championship was kind of icing on the cake because they were going to make it no matter what. They wanted to win the game, but they haven't really been in a pressured situation. I'm curious what's going to happen in this game. The line's gone from started at like 1.5. Notre Dame's up to 2.5. Which way are you leaning?
I still lean with Notre Dame. They were my dark horse going into the college football playoffs. I think they're designed to win. If it was win one game situations, I do think Notre Dame's got one of the best teams for that, with a heavy run offense and just a really strong defense. That being said, you're right. Penn State has a lot of extra rest coming into this, and they played a lot of games where they can kind of coast at the end. That is important, but I do still trust Notre Dame to play a little better. I think you'll see the run game be a little better against Penn State. I know they were super good against Ashton Jonty. It did feel like a lot of that came from just kind of shattering his confidence early with those fumbles. I think that they'll establish a little better of a run game than Boise State could.
I like the under 45.5 points. Feels like both teams are going to want to play the same way. Where do you feel like is there a big coaching edge? I know you're not very high on Franklin. I thought Marcus Freeman did a great job. I mean, he had the game clinching play, if you will, play call by getting Georgia to jump off sides there at the very end. I came away from the game thinking Marcus Freeman did a great job, and I came away from the Penn State game thinking Penn State's got better players. Do you look at it the same way?
Freeman's got just balls. Like he's really confident. He's got a lot of swagger with him. And like again, they're rolling. They've won 2 games in a row now, and like Franklin's steady, but Freeman's one of those guys that when you get the momentum behind you, he can just really like pull it in and just keep pushing it forward. I do think the edge just comes from the amount of momentum it feels like Notre Dame has in comparison to Penn State.
The other way. All right, let's go to the other game. So you like Notre Dame? I guess I'm leaning that way. I'm not betting money against Notre Dame again. That was a really tough Georgia loss for me. Knew I should stay away from college. I like talking myself into all the dumb shit. I'm down here. It's Georgia. I don't know. Bigger team. Oh Lord. Anyway, so Ohio State's playing Texas. You can't really find anybody that wants to take Texas at this point. At least betting against Ohio State seems foolish. The past 2 games they've looked like the best team in the country. But how's the matchup with Texas? So start with when Ohio State has the ball. These receivers, are they just going to run wild like I've been seeing the past couple of weeks, like they did against Oregon and Tennessee?
Well, look, you need a defensive coordinator that's going to come in, put his ego away, and just run zone. Like, I don't know why Oregon thought it'd be a good idea to run man on Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka. It's stupid. It's stupid and it's arrogant. You got to zone them up. You got to maybe double cover the big guys. You got to find a way to make it just not that easy for Chip Kelly to script a play where Jeremiah Smith's just wide open 40 yards down the field. And I do think Texas has the personnel to run a very efficient zone and to at least drop extra guys back because that defensive line is still incredibly good for them. But it comes down to just making Will Howard uncomfortable and taking his confidence away. It's felt like the last couple of games, Will Howard's been able to come out and just kind of do whatever he wants to start a game. You can't let him build that base of confidence. If you 3-and-out Ohio State to start the game, and then you go down and score, pressure's on them now. They feel pressure a lot more than a lot of other teams do. I do think like it literally will come down in the first 2 drives of the game. It's like you got to stop him quick, and then you got to go down and score fast too. And now the momentum's entirely shifted from where it was coming into the game.
Ohio State that looks so dynamic against Oregon that I couldn't figure out what was going on with Oregon. Was it as simple as they were just playing man defense? Because they were also running all over them too.
I think it reached a point where Oregon just kind of gave up. But early on, it does come down to, man-on-man coverage on Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka. And then, like, I think Boston Scott got open on some big plays, too, for them. I don't think it's Boston Scott, but the tight end Scott. It comes down to, you got to, like, basically play like you think they're better than you, and then play a defensive script that will allow you to kind of defend yourself. Because, again, Jeremiah Smith's so good that you kind of do got to accept that he's better than any corner you're going to be able to put on him. And backtracking to that, you got to be like, okay, now how can we defend in spite of that?
So one thing I wanted to ask you about Texas is I think if you pay attention to the fourth quarter, then you can't give Texas a chance, right? Because you're like, man, how do you blow that lead to Arizona State? That's not a championship winning team. But take me through the first 3 quarters. The way Texas played, will they be able to replicate that against Ohio State? Like, are they going to come in and just try to run the football, play conservative, win this game 27-24, 24-21? Is that the only way they can win? Are they going to take some chances down the field? Because I'm curious. It felt like their game plan against Arizona State was relatively conservative.
I think they know they're going to have to take some shots. I think they went into Arizona State and Clemson knowing they had the personnel advantage, knowing they had the better play caller, and knowing like, okay, we're going to take it slow. Our defense should be able to stop their offense, so there's no reason to take any unnecessary risks. Coming into this game, you're just going to have to. Like, Ohio State is objectively right now the best team in the country, just based off momentum, just based off how they've looked. So you got to know, like, look, we have great receivers. We do. And we have a quarterback that on paper should at least be able to get him the ball sometimes. We're going to have to take risks. We're going to have to find ways to keep Caleb Downs out of the game, because when you run the ball, you give him the ability to like kind of like sit down there and like fill the gap. When you throw short, he's able to kind of just be there every time. You basically got to put him on one side of the field and throw to the other side, because he's such a game breaker on defense. You kind of just got to make it so he's not involved in the plays.
The Ohio State corner. What year is he?
He's sophomore, I think. Or he's a sophomore. Yeah, he's a sophomore.
It seems like some of their best players are just young. They always are. They are just always reloading in Ohio State. So, all right, ultimately, how do you see it playing out?
I do think Ohio State wins, and I do think it just comes down to Quinn Ewers. I don't think you've seen him. He has faded at the end of games. It's not just been Texas's defense kind of letting the other team back in. We've seen Quinn Ewers throw bad interceptions in bad points that have let teams back into games. And it still comes down to that. I don't trust Texas for 4 quarters to be able to play their best game, and they're going to have to if they want to beat Ohio State. I just don't see that happening.
He makes me nervous, like, at the end of the game. I mean, they do have some momentum despite blowing the fourth quarter lead. That was a really hell of a throw he made on fourth down. At
That
the end of
coverage was
regulation.
disgusting. That coverage was horrible. I'm sorry. Like, if you are going to all out blitz a guy, the one place that is inexcusable to get beat is over the top. And then basically just the tight end ran straight and the safety just stuck. And it was like, oh, he's just wide open now. Like, he's right there. Good job, guys. Like,
I was gonna say, for Arizona State to lose like that, it's always hindsight. Like, but man, just like, I'd rather just lose by 2 touchdowns and be done with it and go home. It felt like they had that game, and the refs tried to screw them over with not doing the targeting call, and then they just fought through it because Texas guy can't kick a field goal. Tough loss for Arizona State.
no, like, all I'm gonna say is there were some bad play calls. There were some ballsy ones by the end, but like, yeah, Arizona State got screwed. I do think the targeting, if they get that call, they are in a position to at least attempt a field goal.
Right.
It kind of sucks, but again, like, they had a chance in overtime too. They had him at 4th and 13 and didn't stop him there. So it's kind of like you did end up still losing the game for yourself, but to their credit, no one thought they'd even be in that game. I didn't think they were going to be in the game either. So at least good for them to OT with them.
Yeah, and the Scatterbo guy is fantastic. We could do a whole pod on him. I don't think Texas can win the championship. I think if they somehow beat Ohio State, they'll screw it up against the winner of the Penn State Notre Dame game. I think if Ohio State wins this one, Notre Dame has a chance against them. I would be shocked if Penn State had a shot. Penn State would beat Ohio State. So we'll see how it plays out. But those are your thoughts on that. I went through the playoffs yesterday. I know you got to roll in a few minutes, but want to get your quick thoughts here on all the playoff games. But before we do that, MVP for just a minute here, because you make a better case than I probably do for Lamar, because you don't even care one way or the other. Allen's going to get the MVP, so please don't, betting disclaimer, don't bet on it. I don't see a world where Lamar's going to get it, even after Allen didn't play the final week. Just based on everything I'm reading, the way the odds are, very rarely do you actually get to make money off of Vegas, and they give you something where you're like, well, there's a good chance Lamar could win. I'm getting plus, what is it, like plus 350 right now for Lamar and minus 450-ish for Allen. I think it's obvious to people why Allen's going to get it over Lamar. But if you could, because you do a better job than me, what's the 30 to 45 second pitch on why Lamar should get the MVP from your perspective?
Lamar has more passing yards, more rushing yards, more passing touchdowns, and less interceptions. He only has less rushing touchdowns than Josh Allen due to the kind of running backs that they have. James Cook is smaller. He is more of an elusive back. Derrick Henry is 6'3" and a running back. You're obviously going to give the ball to Derrick Henry over James Cook in the red zone. It's the only reason Josh Allen has more rushing touchdowns. All across all stats, Lamar's been the most effective quarterback. Personnel is not a big enough decider for the statistical discrepancy to be just because Lamar has Derrick Henry. Remember, he still has more passing yards, more passing touchdowns. Basically, on every statistic says Lamar has been the better quarterback, and I don't want to entertain the value to the team thing because I've never really heard that mattering outside of a QB wide receiver argument.
Well, no, that also would go to Lamar too. We've dealt with Lamar not finishing the year. That's not very pretty. 2 things I would add, because you hit everything. First is usually rushing touchdowns implies that like that quarterback's more dynamic of a runner. Obviously, the eye test would show otherwise. And then I think we underestimate, and we're about to find out here. Hopefully the Ravens can contain him, but James Cook is really good. So I'm glad you pointed that out. Like, he provides, a different element to the Bills offense that Henry provides to the Ravens offense. But James Cook is really good. The supporting cast in Buffalo is really good. And did a good job. All right, let's do it. Chargers, Texans. I favored the Texans because I like the way they finished the year. Plus, I had the Texans, so maybe I'm a little biased. I don't know if the Chargers have enough gas to score in Houston. Feels low scoring. I don't know if I want to bet on it because I like both quarterbacks. What's your take?
I think it's super close. It's one of those that is genuinely tough. I think they match up super well. I do like CJ Stroud. I know a lot of people have been shitting on him this year, but I still think he's been more than enough for Houston and has gotten them exactly where they need to be. I lean home field advantage. I'd probably just lean Houston on this one. The teams are so close that it really is one of those that probably just comes down to location.
Either team have a chance to beat Kansas City the following week?
Not in the playoffs. Like it's just I'm so accustomed to Mahomes turning it on this late in the season that like it would for them to beat Kansas City, it would require Kansas City to play badly. I don't think either of them can stand on their own two feet and just go toe to toe with Kansas City.
Where are you at with the Ravens giving all these points against Pittsburgh?
Um, I think it makes sense based off Pittsburgh's track record at this point in the season with Mike Tomlin. We've seen them lose 4 straight here. I do think Baltimore's a better team. And yeah, I think the Steelers are doing that thing where they just fade at the end of the season really aggressively. I just watched George Pickens drop, I think it was three pretty much inexcusable passes to drop. I don't think Pittsburgh's heads are in the right place at all. And I think the Ravens have a lot more to prove than Pittsburgh does.
So 8.5. I imagine it comes down a little bit. Yeah,
I
it's
think it's
interesting.
to a touchdown, but I can see the Ravens winning this by 10. I can see that.
The third game is the Bills Broncos, another big spread. Do you think the Broncos can hang with Buffalo?
I think the Broncos can definitely cover the spread. Like it's one of the Broncos looked really good in that last game against the Chiefs. I know it's the backups, but it's like you have a rookie quarterback. You're just going to tell him how good he is all week, especially going into a Buffalo matchup. And he gave himself perfect ammunition to basically say how good he is. I think they can hang with them. Definitely. Buffalo ended the season kind of shaky still. I do think, yeah, I can see Bo Nix putting up a good enough performance to keep this game close.
Philly, Green Bay. Looks like Love's going to play. Hurts and everybody will be back for Philadelphia. They haven't had everybody together though for a few weeks. They're favored by 5. Most people are leaning Philadelphia, at least initially, because the line went from 3. It jumped all the way up to 5. So I saw a place where it had started at 3.5 and then immediately jumped up. I like to watch, as the lines first come out and then different books have different lines. But anyway, most of the money came in on Philly right away. We'll see where it goes by the end of the week. Which way do you lean for this game?
I like Philly a lot more. I don't like a banged up Jordan Love. I thought even with Jordan Love, it would have been super tough. I think if he's carrying any kind of injury, it just makes it that much more difficult for Green Bay to hang with the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've been against the Eagles from the beginning of the year, and it was really frustrating rooting against them. That's really a good sign that that might be a good team. If you're like, damn, I hate that I bet against them. 2 more is the night game. That's my favorite game. So it's the only game that I'm super confident about right off the bat without feeling like I need to dive into anything. Like I've watched enough of both of these teams. I don't need to listen to the coaches this week. I'm already locked in on Tampa. It's 3.5. I like it better at 3. So I can't be talked out of it. You want to try, or are you with me with Tampa?
Is the Vikings for Tampa?
No, Tampa gets Washington at home.
Oh, Tampa gets Washington. Yeah. I think it's definitely Tampa. Yeah. I think the passing offense will be super good against the Washington defense. And they've been one of the best run stopping defenses all year. And that's kind of that's Washington's bread and butter. I know they've been throwing a lot more with Daniels. There've been a lot more attempts, but at the same time, it's kind of just been Jaden Daniels doing everything on offense. And I think if he throws one interception, it becomes really, really tough.
Yeah, I didn't like the way they looked yesterday or a couple days ago against Dallas. I think it's a perfect matchup for Tampa. The last game is the Rams Vikings. That game's in LA. Lot of coaching history there. As I mentioned yesterday, O'Connell was the OC for the Rams when they won the Super Bowl. He's done a great job with Darnold. Darnold looks shook, man. You miss Justin Jefferson the way you miss Justin Jefferson. Like if we didn't watch Sam Darnold all year, it'd be like, of course that was fucking Sam Darnold overthrowing. Like Justin Jefferson was like doing everything he can to like not get upset because he was like, dude, I'm wide open all first half, wide open. They can't score any points in the first half, then they get blown out. If the Rams jump on them 7-0, and that Rams offense is dynamic, I don't know if the Vikings hang with them. I don't know what the home field's going to feel like because it's in LA. I don't know how many LA Ram fans there are, more than Chargers fans. I know that much, but go ahead. What do you think about this game?
I mean, there are two ways to look at Darnold's last game. Is either he threw up earlier in the season, he had a game where he was just terrible, and he's sprinkled in a couple of those this season. You could just see it as it's just one of those Sam Darnold games, or you can look at it as this was the first game that genuinely mattered, and he didn't show up. What can you see from that going into the playoffs? I'm leaning probably more to the second option. I do think that this is game started to matter. Darnold's starting to think about stuff. Darnold's starting to not look as good. I think it'll be, I think if the Rams can jump on them early, and I think the Vikings defensively match up well against the Rams. I think they're going to be able to contain Kyren Williams a good bit, but I do see Darnold kind of fading. I think I still lean Vikings just because of the defense more so, but Darnold's definitely someone to watch for in this game, how he looks just coming out of the gate, seeing if last game was just a fluke really bad game or if it's something that's going to compound.
Yeah, my take on it is I lean Rams, but I like the winner no matter what to beat the Lions. I think the Lions won their Super Bowl Sunday night. I think it was a fun game. I saw some holes. I saw some vulnerabilities. I felt like the Vikings left a lot on the table. And I think the winner of this game, the Rams lost to the Lions, barely to start the season. They lost to them last year in the playoffs. I don't know if it feels like Stafford will get them. And the Vikings, really hard to beat them, a team twice in what will be literally 3 weeks. And I just think at that point, the Vikings will benefit from the fact that they got humiliated in the game. So the Lions kind of have to sit there. I think if I was the Lions, I wish I was on the other side of the bracket where the Packers or the Bucks are, because they lost to the Bucks earlier in the year. So that would be a revenge spot. And then the Packers, they know them really well. So that's my main take. I don't know if I like the Rams or the Vikings. So find out how everything will play out. I got to let you roll. Cool. Appreciate you. Good to have you back. We'll get NBA. I know last time out was not the best performance, but the time out before that was good. So you'll get your NBA bets out as they come. College basketball bets on my end are coming soon. They'll definitely be coming this weekend as I finally get settled back in and can really start watching more. Excited for that. So, all right, buddy. I'll catch you in a few days, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
I see you.
All right, see you, man.